Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. And in an earlier video I showed off the insides of this Sterling Mk.4 L2A3 SMG, less than affectionately known as a small metal gun in British military service. Now when you saw it then, it was in fact full auto. It has now been neutered by the fine gentleman at Mk.4.ch and it is now a semi-auto. It has moved on to the lower type of permit. The one advantage of the new law is that we're now allowed to down convert from full auto again. And yeah, so we took it out on the range for the first time. So fundamentally, I'm not going to detail what's gone on internally, but the selector will now not move further than the one position. A little bit of over travel so that for tolerancing, and it has been done in such a clever way that if anyone were to actually work out what had been done and drilled the part out, the whole thing will just fall apart. So basically this is a lot of work to put back, which is the legal standard. So I had shot one of these before at a permitted full auto shoot. A friend owns one and we had lots of fun with that. And now it's basically my gallery rifle centerfire for the UK crowd, and so we took it out and fired the first shots with it. Open bolt is so much fun. Well, a few off, not getting used to it going schluck, but once I was, that's going basically where it's pointed. Might do a bit of resting, see if maybe we could just drift the front sight a little bit, but it came from the factory like that. That is awesome. So as you probably spotted there, this is still open bolt. A lot of the US ones and in other jurisdictions they're converted to fire from a closed bolt with a linear striker or a hammer, but this is still as nature intended, and it has a lock time like a flintlock. And Chappie, who is holding the camera, assures me that he has flintlocks that actually run faster.
I do, yeah.
So that first one there, it takes a bit of getting used to, because when you pull the trigger, that's a long way for the bolt to move before it goes bang. You really do have to get used to this. It's not like the almost instantaneous lock time of a closed bolt system. So there's a real schlunk, and you can see the recoil happening from the breech block moving as you release the trigger. And initially that was some 124 grain top shot that we fired, and you can tell that the pressure on that is not exceptional. So ergonomics wise, magazine is empty, but we're outside the range. I'm not going to put it in. It sticks out the left, that doesn't bother me. Didn't load a full 34 rounds, which would of course twist it a bit. The balance on these is excellent, and with it empty like this, you can see that the point of balance is basically where your right hand is, with the bolt to the rear ready to fire. With the bolt forward, it's a bit further forward, with the magazine of course there. Now we did some more shooting with it. It was a little bit off to the left. I tried adjusting the front sight, but it's kind of tight in its notch and would possibly need a little more persuasion than I could give it. Shot slightly high, but that's fine. I mean, they're cited for 100 and 200. But at some point we shall get this out at 100 and 200 and see what we can do with it. Shooting 115 grain gecko, which is a bit more pokey. Certainly the open bolt subguns I've shot tend to like 115 grain more than 124. It just seems to have a bit more pressure and ejects positively. Otherwise, ergonomically, the little flanges here, the little protective flanges, are very good. You can index your hand without any risk of a finger creeping somewhere it shouldn't, like into the ejection opening or round the muzzle. I was a bit worried that the bayonet lug was going to be a bit of a pain, but if I turn around with my index finger against the front finger protector there, it sort of sits where my thumb wants to be. So it is there, but it doesn't annoy me. If it was sort of sitting on me like that, it would be annoying, but it just sits there. With a bayonet on, if you ever actually did that, you'd have to hold it further back as a result, I guess. I don't have a bayonet for this because number 5 and Sterling bayonets are hideously expensive. I'm not that much of a collector that I'm willing to drop £200 plus on a bayonet. So yeah. Other than that, that's an awful lot of fun. Shooting open bolt compared to closed bolt is different. It is more fun. It is more unusual, which is possibly why it appeals to me rather more. I guess if a closed bolt one came up, and it would be great to make the comparison, because they are around. I have occasionally seen them in Europe, but I think if one does turn up, it may have to be added to the collection so we can do a comparison. Now, the reliability wise, feed ejection was absolutely perfect, and something that I didn't mention in the previous video and didn't click was that spring there. And what that actually does is it pushes, as I said, I'm not going to put it in, it pushes the magazine forward, so you've got a consistent presentation angle, and those notches cooperate with the front of the mag housing there, with the spring pushing it forward, so even if it's a bit loose, it's still giving a good presentation angle. However, and the eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted it earlier when I dropped the bolt, if you don't press it positively, if you release the trigger too gently, and now of course, being bloke on the range, now I want to demonstrate this, it won't happen. Now, a couple of the other guys fired it, I didn't get it on film. If you press it too gently, sometimes the internal tripping lever in the trigger mechanism trips prematurely. So what the tripping lever does is when the sear is released, it trips and it pops it back up. On a Sten, this is actuated by the bolt going forward. Here it's internal to the trigger, and if it trips prematurely, it was tripping before the sear was released. Part of this is possibly because this is a brand new trigger mechanism, but we shall see what happens in the future, whether that gets better or worse, and if it gets worse I might have to get it looked at, but it certainly likes a positive trigger press. The trigger is heavy and creepy and awful. This is not a precision arm, shall we say. Yeah, I mean, overall, accuracy wise, it's comparable accuracy to a pistol, but it's much easier to shoot to that degree of accuracy than a pistol, which is largely why this class of firearm found use in roles that previously might have had a pistol. It wasn't just guys in the front of an assault. I mean, as I mentioned previously, a lot of these were issued kind of in the British Army, kind of in the way that the M1 carbine was in the US military of the earlier era, to guys that were embuggered with other things like radios, vehicles to drive, things like that, anti-tank weapons, and so on. So yeah, that was a bit rambling. I think I got all my points across. This is an awful lot of fun. This is one of my grail guns, and to have it blocked at semi-auto so I can shoot it on a range whenever I like is absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much again to the guys at Mk.4 for their excellent work converting this, and thank you very much to patrons, of course, who helped us to acquire this lovely piece of equipment. And see you again sometime. Bye.